our channel, Exploring It All. I'm Miraculous Girl. Join me and my dad while we explore subscription boxes, the outdoors, gear and equipment, and other fun things and places. Before we get started, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Ding! Today, we are going fishing.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, Miraculous Girl, and thank you everyone for joining us again here on Exploring It All. So today we're going to take a look at a more historical knife than I normally show on the channel here. This is a 1966 Buck 301. Now, Buck did not make this knife. They contracted it out to Camillus to make the knife because they weren't ready to produce slip joint knives yet. Whole history thing. Now, this knife is very unique and one of a kind. This knife in this particular design was only manufactured for 1 year from 1966. I've done a little bit of research about it. I'm going to talk about the knife, and I'll tell you where I got this knife. I didn't buy it. So the knife is, the only thing I can find about the blade material is that it's stainless steel. If someone has more information regarding that, please put it down in the comments, because I couldn't find an exact number for the steel itself. The scale material is called Durlin, which is a plastic material that was first released in the 1960s. This has a cross-cut pattern in it, and hopefully it's hard for me to tell if the camera is picking it up or not. You have the Buck knife and hammer logo in there. Really crisp and clean, considering this knife is 56 years old. These are nickel bolsters. It has brass liners in here. And this particular, the current, and I don't have one to compare, but the current 3.0, or at least that I know of, the current 301s actually have 3 back springs. This model only has 2, and then you have the brass liners. Again, those are stainless steel. You got the nickel bolsters. Now, one thing that is very unique and telling about the 1966 design is it has these grooves right here in the bolsters. Only the 1966 has those grooves in the bolsters. I'm not completely sure how long. Eventually these 2 pins were dropped and you only have the center pin. Eventually those pins were dropped, and these pins are all brass pins as well. Now, this knife is the Stockman. It has 3 blades. The blades are, you have your regular clip point blade, I guess it's called. And one thing about it, you have the large nail nick at the top, and it has this grind down, and I forget the name of what that is called, but it goes all the way across the top, halfway above the nail nick. That is the back side of this has that false kind of grind on it. And I don't really want to sharpen this knife. I thought about trying to clean up the scratches on it from it being sharpened. It's actually very sharp. and there's a reason I'm not going to try and sharpen it. But as you can see, it has been sharpened a little bit. Although you can see the original material lines coming down the blade, at least I can. And I don't know if you guys can see that in the camera or not, but this knife actually has the original grind markings when the material was put together there. And I'll turn that kind of slow there so you guys can see that. There's only markings, and it says buck made in the USA. You can't see the USA because of the bolster on there. Except for when you half close the blade, then you can see the USA on there. So that just kind of give you guys an idea. And you can see how that kind of curves down in there. And I'm just lighting and everything reflects off that. You guys can see that. Now the other two blades you have, this is called a spay blade. And again, you can see the sharpening. Now you have a more kind of standard nail nick here. Like I said, the only thing I've really done is clean this knife up and oil it. But I haven't done, you know, I could sand the markings from the sharpening out of this blade. And you can see it's kind of, this is kind of tapered down at the top right here as well. Now, as we get into this here, and you can see the taper in here by the nail nick. This knife belonged to my grandfather. My grandfather bought this knife new. And this knife was in his pocket the day he passed away. He spent a day on the lake fishing. This blade is called the sheep's foot. You can see the markings in that. This knife was passed to my father, who's passed many knives to me. My grandfather passed away in August of 1970. Like I said, he spent the day fishing on the lake. I was unable to take that trip. My grandmother was holding the boat while he was on the boat launch. He was going up to get the truck to pull the boat out of the lake, and he had a heart attack and passed away at the top of the hill. So anyway, you see the markings in there, the groove down. Like I said, you can see a little bit of sharpening on this blade, not so much. A few of my grandmother's knives had similar markings on them, and I know this is from my grandfather. And you can see the taper in the back of this blade, how it tapers in right here. I'll pull that spay blade out again. I didn't really show the back side of that spay blade. So like I said, this knife was in the pocket of my grandfather when he passed away. I used to go fishing with him and my grandmother, and on that particular August day, when they went, my mom wouldn't let me go because I had to go to school. My grandfather used to always tell me he didn't know how he was going to make it up the hill without me helping him. So I thought I would share that little bit of story with you guys. And again, you can see the taper in that blade of this very rare buck 301. Like I said, this knife was contracted. It was Buck's first, not their first attempt at a slip joint, but a multi-bladed slip joint. There is another knife that they did kind of make. But this was actually contracted out, and then the Buck name was put on it. I have a more current Buck that I can put on comparison here a little bit. Now this is a very modern knife compared, and this is a single blade. And you can see a little bit of the difference. It only has the stainless steel, and the bolster is actually part of the liner. You don't have the brass in there. A lot of differences in it. And you can feel the difference in the cuts in the groove. Of course, this has some pocket wear. My grandfather wasn't the kind of person to collect a knife or knives. He bought a tool and he used that tool. I have a subscriber that in his comments reminds me of my grandfather, although I have no idea how old the individual is. Woodsman for life. And he strikes me as the kind of person that will buy one knife, and that's the knife he would use. And my grandfather was the same way. He will buy one quality item and use that item. Anyway, guys, thank you for taking the time to listen if you did. I appreciate your viewership. Our videos are getting lots of views, a lot more than we have subscribers, that's for sure. If you guys could take the time to like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And remember, be nice to each other.